Welcome to the AECI Plant Health Podcast, where we have conversations that help you unlock nature's potential.
How is it, South Africa? And thanks for listening to Farmers Inside Track, the country's most downloaded farmers podcast, powered by AECI Plant Health. Today, we explore the advantages of mycorrhizae in agriculture. Our expert, AECI Plant Health Biological Specialist for the International Division, Hendriks, explores what this is and shares more about the benefits of mycorrhizae in agriculture. Over to you, Octavia Spandil, Food from Zanzi journalist.
Thanks, Dawn. Hendriks, welcome to Farmers Inside Track. Chris, today I will be picking your brain on the topic of biocult and the benefit of mycorrhizae in agriculture. What are mycorrhizae and where do they actually come from?
Thank you, Octavia. Mycorrhizae, in the actual sense of the word, really refers to the relationship between these specialized microorganisms and the plant roots. But in general, especially when we refer to mycorrhizae in the agricultural sector, we refer to the microorganisms themselves. And it's not a specific species, but rather a whole collection of different ones. Because they create this relationship between the plant roots and themselves, we refer to them as mycorrhizae. Now, there's a natural tendency between plants and these microorganisms to associate with one another. And this is for various reasons. We refer to this as a synergistic effect, where both the plant and the microorganisms then benefit. And then this is called a symbiosis that's formed between the two. We generally refer to these microorganisms as a specialist association, but we do find that these mycorrhizae actually show some generalist characteristics. So they do associate with several plants. And this is not restricted to a single area in the country or even in the world. These little microorganisms occur all across the world. Unfortunately, because of conventional agricultural practices, we've seen a decline in their numbers over time, and therefore they aren't as common as they used to be.
Wow, that's fascinating. How do mycorrhizae benefit plants and in a particular crop?
So when you look at mycorrhizae and the association that they form with a plant, we can say that they actually form a secondary root system and therefore also expanding the absorption zone around the roots. So in actual fact, they help the plant to get access to more nutrients and water, which would usually lie outside the absorption zone of the roots. And because they are expanding farther and farther into the soil, they have the ability to go and look for nutrients and water, which again lies outside the root zone, but then also be able to mobilize or solubilize these fixed nutrients. And one thing mycorrhizae is renowned for is their ability to solubilize fixed phosphates and then deliver that directly into the root. And because this form is also in the right usable form for the plant's energy levels also increases. We can see this because the plant's Brix level or the soluble content of the plant sap starts to increase. This allows the plant to spend more energy on necessary processes inside the plant. And this gives you then a more resilient plant that is tolerant towards drought, heat stress, or other stresses like disease and pests. And because the roots now become populated with the mycorrhizae, this creates a very favorable environment for other beneficial microbes to enter into this root zone. And in fact, then you will be able to build a healthier soil. But as an added benefit, the carbon content of the soil will also then start to increase.
And what makes biocult different from other products?
That is a very good question. Several listeners would recognize mycorrhizae and think that there are a lot of these products available on the market, and several of them also claim to have mycorrhizae in them. The difference then between biocult and these competitor products would then firstly be biocult is a combination product. So it doesn't just contain a single species of mycorrhizae, but it contains 3 different species of mycorrhizae. And then we also include a very synergistic symbiotic microorganism called trichoderma in there, which supports the mycorrhizae in their function by means of decomposing organic matter and feeding the nutrients then to the mycorrhizae that they then can give to the plant. But the trichoderma is also responsible then for cleaning up the root area to prevent any of the pathogens in the soil then to enter into the root zone. Secondly, the product then also is the mycorrhizae product is produced in vivo. And what this means is the mycorrhizae is grown on various crops, not just a single crop, in conditions that is fairly similar to what you would expect to find out in the field. So we actually grow a very robust type of microorganism that is adaptable to various conditions.
Chris, please help us understand, besides the benefits to the crop, what other benefits are there when we apply BioCult?
So besides the increase to access to more nutrients, the growers will also start seeing the value they spent on the fertilizer and even the irrigation. Because you've now increased the root zone, a lot of the fertilizer that would usually just run past the roots and leach out is now actually obtained by the mycorrhizae and taken to the plant for the plant then to use. Again, this will create a more resilient plant. And because the plant then is less reliable on the usual chemicals we use, the grower will see a reduction in use of the pesticides and fungicides that they usually use on the crop. This also then means that the crop that it produces has a lot less chemical residues on it and then delivers a safer food at the end. When you combine this fact with the fact that the food is more nutritious because more of the food actually goes into the crop, it almost starts to sound more like a sustainable approach. And that is what we're aiming for. We want to feed the world with safer, more nutritious food. And it gets better. And a bonus, carbon is removed from the atmosphere and fixed inside the soil. And this then starts to regenerate the soil to its former glory.
Our conversation has been very specific to the South African context. But what I'm also curious to know is, can BioCult be used in other parts of the world outside of South Africa?
Yes, indeed, Octavia. So like I've mentioned at the beginning, mycorrhizae occurs all across the world, except for Antarctica. We haven't established them there yet. So the species that are included in BioCult, we consider them as universal species, and they are found all across the world, not just in Africa. Even though they were isolated from very harsh conditions in Africa, these species are no strangers to the rest of the world. And because of the method they are produced, they have the ability to adapt to various conditions. And this means that they will be able to perform consistently anywhere in the world, except for Antarctica. We'll be able to establish crops there eventually.
Are you saying that there's research going on right now to be able to establish those kinds of plants in Antarctica?
No, it's a bit cold at this point, so I don't know of any plant that would be able to survive that stress. As technology improves, I can imagine it's not too far-fetched to say one day we will see some of these greenhouses pop up in Antarctica, and then we'll be able to supply them with these microorganisms. And I believe that they will still be able to perform even under those conditions.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating. And finally, can BioCult be used along with conventional agricultural practices, or do they need to be converted to more sustainable practices?
This is the beauty about BioCult. So there's no need to change any of the practices when you start to incorporate BioCult into a program. Even though we encourage growers to incorporate more sustainable practices by using the whole range of our New Way products. It's not just the BioCult, it's the whole program that benefits the plant. But even if you do not convert to any of these more sustainable practices, you can still enjoy the benefits of BioCult and still see that it's helped you build the soil and improve the overall plant health. But like I've mentioned, in the endeavor to create safer, healthier food to feed the world, we encourage growers to incorporate these sustainable practices and then also include the rest of our newer products to achieve that goal ultimately.
Thanks, Octavia, and thanks for joining us here on Farmers Inside Track. AECI Plant Health Biological Specialist for the International Division, Chris Hendriks. And that's a wrap from me, Don Numdu, Octavia Spandeel, our technical producer Megan van der Vent, and the rest of the hashtag Team Food for Mzansi. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.
Another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.